Welcome to Heavy Lifts. We're in a different spot now. We're in the basement of JCPenney. We have been upstairs. Now we've moved. And I am super excited to introduce our guest today, Britany Rand, who
That's me.
She owns a land use company here in Salem. And I've gotten to watch from afar as she's developed her brand and her company. And
you can't miss it.
You cannot miss it.
Why
There's
is
a
that,
certain
guys?
color that she likes. We're going to talk about that, right? And we're just grateful that you made time for us on the show. And so we're talking about heavy lifts and doing big things in Salem. So welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Heavy lifts.
Heavy lifts. That's what it is. You want to talk about heavy lifts real quick?
Sure. Yeah. No. It's and what's our tagline again? That you.
So, for those who see opportunity and embrace the risk to build it.
Thank you. Good
Love
job.
that.
Yes, thank you. I usually mess that up.
Yep. So, yeah, no, this is a great way to start into it because the land use process, right, which you're an expert in, is one of those things that has, over time, become more complex and hard to navigate. So, think of it like tax codes become more complex over the years, right? And generally speaking, if I try to take a less pessimistic approach, there was a reason why a rule was put into place, right? And that
Right.
reason was a good reason. However, that rule created unintended consequences that were unforeseen. And, you know, I think you are a pivotal piece to the heavy lift, which is transforming Salem, right? And how do we do that? And how do we get a team with inertia and energy together doing it? We're sitting in a building, JCPenney, that I think is a potential spark for that. You know, you've been a big part of the Forge project, Clink, from the very beginning, right? And from its inception as an idea, before it grew and grew and grew.
Outside, inside. That was the first thing we started talking about.
And yes, and it's how do we get a team together, and how do we help each other out to move forward?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, we could touch land use, we could touch on, but I think we need to learn. So, I can't even remember how did
we get connected?
Yeah.
We need to talk about that.
My first phone call with
Yeah,
Nat.
I want to hear about this. Yes.
Okay, so let's see. It was February of 22 or 23. Can't really remember.
22 probably. Yep.
Probably 22, okay.
Mhm.
And I get this call from this number I don't know, so I answer, and it's Nat on the other line, and he said, you know, I really feel like I'm talking to like the CIA or something. And I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, I secretly got your number from AJ Nash, and I'm not supposed to be able to call you because we have a client, a mutual client, should we say it?
Sure.
Clutch Industries.
Clutch.
Who apparently wanted to have a chokehold on brand.
Yeah.
And so they were nervous about me getting too busy, too big, not having time for them. And so they were really particular about who they shared my information with. So this is going to shock everybody, but AJ Nash just went against the grain and did his own thing.
Surprise.
But it's very cool because then it connected us together, and we worked on your Hyacinth project.
Yeah.
And so, you know, good things were born out of it. But that was so funny how you were just like, I feel like I'm talking to the CIA.
Yeah, well, and when you think about land use, like I don't come from a development background. That was, my first development was on Candlewood, and we developed a 4-unit industrial flex property. And before that, I hadn't had any experience. And so I was talking to AJ. I'd call AJ, be like, AJ, help me out. He'd be like, blah, 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 and basically speaking a different language. And I'm like, can you help? Is there somebody who can help me through this process? Does somebody exist? Because I don't, I started calling the city, and I started going through the process, and it was like navigating through a swamp.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, actually, I have a contact, a connection, which I love about real estate. I love about, somebody in your position who you're touching a lot of different people because of what you do. And now, I have a great contact, a great relationship. But I couldn't do that like before. I didn't have any way of finding anybody. So you offer a skill set that many people don't have. So can you just, I guess, tell people what it is you do and why you're so valuable to the process?
Yeah, with an asterisk, valuable expert, right? I'm always like, well, I'm always learning things every day. But yeah, so we, in land use, it's like, I call it the permission before the permission. So before you can go and get building permits, you have to satisfy the city that you're going to meet all their regulations. And in Salem, site plan review became a big thing in the early 2000s. They introduced it after being sued. So that's really the crux of it, is a lot of these codes that we are now subject to come out of this really negative thing that happened with the city. And so the city is trying their best to protect themselves, which turns into this like what we feel is overregulation or overstepping, and it all has a domino effect, right? You change the bicycle parking code and it does something to the landscaping, and if you do something to the landscaping, it does something to the GSI and the engineering of the site, and it's just this thing that becomes this beast that almost is the tail wagging the dog. And so my job, I feel like, is to bring it back down to earth. If you go on my website, it says, you know, believe in the outcome more than the, I don't even know my own quote, something, right?
It's okay.
Believe in
We
the
don't know our
outcome more
tagline
than
either.
the obstacles, I think.
Okay.
And so
love
I
that.
would view land use as an obstacle, but I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, whereas when you called me, you probably couldn't.
I had no idea how to get there and what obstacles were even in my way
Yeah.
at that point in time. I didn't really know what site plan review was at that point in time. I didn't know, how big a building I could build. There's all these things that you just don't know when you're developing a property that you're helping hold my hand as you're going through the process. And that project didn't get off the ground, but we have others we're working on. And can you? I want to rewind a little bit.
No, me too. I'm so glad.
Uh-oh.
Okay, good. We're on the same page finally. Okay,
Where are we
good.
going?
Well, I wanted to go back to the beginning.
Yes.
Ooh,
let's
what's
start there.
the beginning?
Go ahead.
Like, what parts of your life, after, of course, we don't have to go into the meeting of Chris and
Like
those
at
parts
the
and
beginning, are we
twinkle in
like
the
talking
eye.
about 1987,
But
December 27th?
what led you to
We're
land
going
use?
back.
How did you get there? Like, what was your path?
It's a weird
this?
path. It's a weird path. So my first degree was commercial interior design.
Okay.
I thought I wanted to be this 4-page spread in a magazine, Architecture Digest kind of person, working in New York City or Las Vegas on the coolest nightclubs and the coolest restaurants. And I thought that was my scene. And then I was like, dang, I really don't like being around people that much. So, and then I also had this is going to really surprise you, AJ, because you know me so well. I had this difficulty adopting other people's ideas.
You said that as if it was past tense, but you maybe have would be a better way
Okay,
to-
but then I was like, you know what? Somebody else will set the rules. Somebody
Yeah.
else will tell us what we can do. And then I'll just help navigate that. And that's a good fit for me, right? So it's like somebody else says what we're doing, but adopting other people's design ideas was a challenge. And actually, some of my professors were pointing that out to me pretty early on. And they were like, but you know what you're really good at is AutoCAD. And I was like, well, it's the only thing that has structure in this freaking industry
Yep.
of design and art and whatever. And so I realized that's my path. I like structure. So I actually finished up that part of my life and went to Shemeketa and started taking AutoCAD classes.
Oh, okay.
And met a guy who works in civil engineering and started down that path of working for a civil engineer just as a little assistant, kind of like poking my head over his shoulder and trying to learn things. And then I heard this concept of land use. It's like said with frustration all the time. Got to get land use approval. And I'm like, what is this thing that's pissing everybody off? And so I learned about the concept from a guy who thought the world would be a better place if it was rid of planners, which is an interesting, I think, perspective to come from. And it made me really empathetic for developers. And so I'm pretty self-taught. I learned by, sitting across the table from people in leadership at the city, like Lisa Anderson Ogilvy, who is our planning administrator, and just asking her stupid questions. Where does that say that in the code? How would I know that? How could someone like me go and find that information? And then eventually, a few years later, Lisa became my boss because I decided to take a job with the city of Salem because I wanted to see the other side of the coin.
Yep.
The dark side of the moon, some would say. And that really gave me a boost to say, okay, now I feel like I understand your perspective, city, but I still have this empathy for development and developers trying to get through the process. And I really didn't like that people would come to me and say things like, well, you work in development, you must be a glutton for punishment. And I was like, why is it that way? Because these investments are enhancing our community. So why is it that way? Why is that the narrative? And so I was naive and thought I could like bridge this gap between the private and public sector. And then I realized I'm a little bit, I don't know, I may be polarizing to some.
Well, let's say
Abrasive.
what I think we all appreciate about you is that you get right to the point. And especially
try
when
to.
when you hire somebody, whether it's a broker or a land use planner, a lawyer, an accountant, I think you want somebody who like you trust and who you enjoy working with, but who also just gets straight to the point. And I think that's like what we really like about you, is that you're just like, "Psst, this is how it's going to be." And yes, obviously you have opinions, but I think you have opinions because you've had the experiences, right?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I'm never trying to stifle someone's creativity or ideas, but I don't want to be known as a firm that will take on any application because I just won't. I really like my reputation of winning, and that's the goal, is to get everybody to a place where we can all say yes, right? My developers are saying, I'm happy with this outcome. The city's saying, we feel like you've met the burden of proof and you're good to go. And that's the place that I want to live in because that's my comfort zone. So...
I'm curious, like start to finish, like how long is like the land use process? If you have like a vacant piece of dirt and you're trying to, put something on there, I mean, you probably have some parceling issues. Like, oh, AJ is going to probably qualify this question, but I'm kind of curious, is like, start to finish, like if you've never done it before, like how long does that process usually take?
I want to answer you, but the answer is about to burst out of this guy. So I'm like, I really want to hear what he has to say.
No.
I'm curious from your perspective, how long does it take? Blank piece of dirt. How long does it take?
I mean, the issue is
Because he's in it before I'm in
everything
it.
takes 3 years unless it takes longer. That's the first response. And it's the most simple piece of dirt to build the most simple commercial project is something that should take 6 months of land use for your type 1. However, then you got to build in all of your preparing for your submissions and figuring out your performance and figuring out your ideas. And so then you get to a year. But like even just this project across the way, the Forge, right? At the beginning, we're like, everything takes 3 years. I was like, guys, this is an existing building. We don't even have to go through the land use process.
Yeah, but there's like 20 different starting points too. So it's like, what do you consider starting, Nat?
Well, vacant piece of dirt would be one starting point, right?
But is the starting point you setting out on this voyage to find the vacant piece of dirt?
Oh, I would consider, I'm under contract. I've purchased the piece of
Okay.
dirt, right? And so
And you have
I've done
an
nothing
idea?
else. I've got an idea of what I want to put on. Let's just say multifamily, or maybe it's a mixed-use building, like
Yeah.
what you did on River Road, right? Something
Yeah.
like that, where you have some commercial units on the bottom, and then on the top you have some multifamily. That's
I agree with AJ. I think you have to plan that everything is going to take 3 years.
okay.
I get a lot of calls in the summer. I want to break ground before the weather turns, and it's just like, man, I wish you would have called me last summer.
Right. And why does it take that long? Because I mean, in my head, as someone who hasn't done it very very much, I've bought this piece of land. Like it's just say it's flat, it's ready to go. I feel it's ready to go, right? Like walk me down like that process, because I feel like 3 years to build something and then 1 year for the entitlements process, right?
At least.
It sounds like an awful long time to get something done.
It is, and it scares a lot of people away. And so oftentimes, like, realtors don't want their clients talking to me because I'm going to tell them really what's going to happen. But it really depends, and usually it's the things that you don't see that you're going to trip over. So, yeah, to you, it looks like a nicely mowed plot of land next to other stuff. Well, why is it vacant? Is it vacant because there's wetlands? Is it vacant because it's in the floodplain? Is it vacant because it's a archaeological site? There's usually a reason. So we're getting, at least in Salem, we're getting to sort of the latter part of our buildable lands inventory. And so there's hair on things, and there's things that we don't see. And so those take a long time. They'll delay, somebody says archaeological compliance. If you need clearance, just add a year. Add
Wow.
a year and a lot of money.
Wow. Like, so if that even comes up, like, why would it take a whole year to get some sort of compliance for an archaeological? Is it because you have to bring somebody in, dig it up, and?
Well, yeah. So I mean, there's definitely different ways to skin the cat, right? But I think the likely thing is that you'd want to leave it in place. You really have to work with the tribes and understand what they want to do with it.
Yeah.
Because the artifacts are theirs.
Yep.
But then the land is privately owned. So it's this weird balance of
Interesting. Yeah.
satisfying their heritage and something that's really important to them. And you having the ability to utilize your property the way you want to. So it's a really unique balance. And there's a lot of really good examples of that balance being reached around town. So the MAPS building downtown has some archaeological considerations. The police station, there's a whole article on what they found there.
Oh.
And all the test pits that had to take place. And the city of Salem has a full-time archaeological investigator. She used to be the historic preservation officer,
Okay.
but she's moved into this archaeology component. She's really good at it, really thorough, and has a great relationship with the tribes. And so it's just, I think from an outsider's perspective, it's like, we know how to build a building, so why can't we just build a building? Well, for these 52 other reasons are why you can't just go build a building. So
Now, quick sales pitch. There's a reason why, I think it was maybe 2 Christmases ago, my gift to Britany was a pink belt, which is 1 step above a black belt, in case you wonder. Yep.
Yeah.
we decided that, I think.
Yeah, clearly.
Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense. Pink over black.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
That just makes sense.
All day.
But when I give a referral and I give Britany, I call her a jurisdictional ninja. And part of the issue is the outcomes and the paths. There's so many what ifs. There's so many doors. There's so many, archaeological. I mean, shoot, my little lot next to my office where I'm already built, the bridge to nowhere, right? That's going to be removed later, but we have to build so that ADA access to a sidewalk to nowhere that doesn't exist.
Yeah, there's no sidewalk.
And so when cities plan, they plan for like 80 years from now, 100 years from now. But when a developer is first in, they have to take more of the burden.
Yes.
And so that's what's slowing this process down. But that jurisdictional ninja component it's important. And I want to qualify the 3 years, even though everything takes 3 years. Really, when you know what you want and you're trying to get there and you're trying to work through that process, you could probably shorten that entitlement process to 12 months on average.
Sure.
You really can. And then you get permits and you break ground and you build, and that's 12 to 14 months. Let's take a mixed use or an apartment. And then you got this thing called stabilization where you actually start getting revenue from it. And then that length of time, there's a cost of capital, right? You're not just putting money in because you have no other place to put it.
Oh, yeah.
It's supposed to be getting a return for you over time. And so that's the toughest part of development, and why there's so many people that get frustrated is their business plan was like, well, I talked to my friends who use Britany and they said they can get entitlements in 1 year. And then I knew I could do it on my own. And then 2.5 years later, I still can't get entitlements. And it's like, well, it's not that you clearly should use Britany. But there's not a lot of people that do what you do, and it's more like, why would you use an advisor? It's a complex process. It's the same reason you'd use a CPA, to navigate it more efficiently. And why?
Absolutely.
What, you're going to charge me this? Well, the cost of an extra 1.5 years was way more than your fee.
Yeah.
And your fee is literally just a fair fee because it takes hours to navigate this stuff. And then you can do, what I could do in 20 hours, you can do in 1 because you've done it 20 times, right? You know how to answer, you know how to respond, you know what the city's looking for. But I want to take a step back a little bit.
Oh boy, gears are
Where are
turning.
we going?
The word development. And I would argue that the word development is way too broad.
Have you looked up the definition of development in Salem City Code?
No, what is it?
Everything. You can move an invisible line, and that's development. It's really actually quite detrimental to all of us who are, if you're trying to prepare a site or say you wanted to take smaller chunks. So we have our Turner site, for example, almost 400 acres. We would like to divide this property so that we can realize little successes rather than eating the whole elephant in one bite. And you really can't do that without triggering every single requirement because it's development.
But let me go backwards a little bit from there. If I asked you to right now, developer in a community, do you think that positive or negative outlook?
To folks who are not
Community.
in our
City,
industry,
community.
definitely negative.
Okay. So
Yeah, I think that's the I mean, and getting into it now. Before you just have, developer reminds me of New York City. And I
Yep.
just think of just like a big building being built, and some kind of use that maybe isn't friendly for the neighborhood. And I don't know why that's in my head, but that's just where I jump to.
But
Right.
because of stories, it's
Yeah.
the person tearing down the farm to build the high rise.
Who doesn't
That
care about
is-
how it impacts the community?
Right.
But my opinion is this: a relationship development officer is the position that helps build a business. The childhood development, or let's take a switch. Coach develops humans. And so I think we need to change what development is, because development in its core is improvement. We're
Yeah.
going to develop something, meaning we're going to take something that was here and we're going to try to level up. And I think what we're trying to do, both with this podcast and with Forge and with JC Penney, we're not even saying its new name yet, are we?
Not yet. No,
Okay,
we're almost
good.
there. We're getting close.
Oh,
Ah,
a teaser! I love that.
but is we're trying to take that. We're developing a community. We're not developing a building. We're not tearing down someone's house. We're not.
That's exactly right.
And so how do we change?
community.
And I think the heavy lifts here are changing the perspective of everyone who watched videos on Hallmark since the 19, whatevers in the big bad developer, right, that was always grouchy and had the pinstripe suit and was Scrooge, is like what's ingrained in people's mind.
Yeah.
And like, how do we change that? Like, how do we help the city understand that development, it's not that everything is considered development. Well, sure, if I take this perspective, well, everything you're moving is adjusting something, but development is improvement. Development is not the opposite, right?
So this is exactly why I took the job at the city, because I was trying to understand what is it about developers that causes you all so much angst. And I remember hearing over and over, profit or loss of profit is not a reason to adjust the standard. Like, that's ridiculous. And so profit became this like the bad P word. Like, never say that you're going to make a profit, right? And I think people have this misconception that developers are just lining their pockets with the tears of the community. And it's like, that is not true. You wouldn't have 45th Parallel, an incubator space that has, broken down barriers for people to start their small businesses. You wouldn't have the Forge if that was the case, right? These are all like projects that are injecting excitement and reducing barriers for our community to be better. And so I'm always trying to change hearts and minds about what a developer really means, and that these guys aren't taking home their sacks of money at night, right? They're putting it back into our community, into this place that they care about, which is so crazy, because maybe it's true. They must be gluttons for punishment, right? It's a thankless job. And it's not like you're out here looking for a pat on the back, right?
Right.
You're just here doing what you know how to do and develop and make space for the community. And I wish that was the message. But I think that's a good segue into Stack and what Stack's going to do.
Ooh, Brittany, you should start hosting the show. I think I like the way this is going. And I love the narrative about development and what it actually is versus what people do think it is. And I think we need to continue having those conversations and driving home the point that it's very hard. It's thankless, and it takes such a big team. Like, if I look on just a typical Wednesday meeting with Clutch, right, and all the projects that they have and all the different people who are a part of it, right, who are making money, but it is such a big lift to do. You're talking about probably 20 people who are touching this project, right, in different fields just to get it off the ground and running, and it's just such a huge
and some
component
people
of our
leveraging it all to be part of it.
Absolutely.
Right,
Yeah. Sometimes you
through
have
a
to through
HELOC
financing.
or-
Yep.
Exactly.
Exactly. And you have to bring your own. You have to put your own skin in this game, and it's not easy. You lose a lot of sleep at night, with some of these projects.
That's
and
right.
I know, and so. Really
What's
good
sleep?
point. Yeah, who really cares about that?
Yeah, we
anyways?
work first, second, and third shift around
let's
here.
Let's shift over to Stack. I love this because I was we were I think it started with Clink, actually. You were on site with a group of women I think, who were investors in Clink.
No.
Oh, it wasn't.
Some of them were.
Okay.
Two of them were.
Okay.
Two of them were my staff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we were just sort of poking around.
You were here.
That was before the security really shut everything down.
Yeah, that's right. We had to shut things down over here. And I approached you guys, and I was like, I was asking questions about, like, what Salem needs. Like, what do you think this building should be? Which is a question I've asked a lot of different people, and the response was great. I sat there, I listened to 8 different women give me their opinions on this building, and it was like it was great. It was fantastic. Things for the kids, things for the adults, engagement. Things that are going to be additive to the Forge, things like that. And then Britany kind of looks at me in the eye. She's like, "You know what? Like, we should start something." I was like, "What do you mean?" Like, "We should start something that's bringing energy, that's changing downtown." I was like, "Let's talk more."
Oh gosh.
I mean, those rooms that you're in and you leave really super inspired. That was that.
Exactly that.
And
Yeah,
then,
I was feeling it.
zoom forward to our first stack meeting. I left that feeling super energized.
So what is Stack? Explain this. We're using an acronym.
We are. Because it sounds so much cooler.
It's great because I don't think AJ knows.
I don't even know what it is.
don't know
And I
what
was
it
invited
is?
to the meeting, and I showed up.
His first question was like, "What am I doing here?" And it was great. So yeah, you want to give the acronym?
I feel like it's almost like a fish hook to the collar. I just pulled him into this committee. He didn't know.
As if he doesn't have enough to do.
Yeah, so STACK stands for Salem Town Advisory Committee. And we wanted to leave it kind of broad about what it means so that we can do a whole bunch of different stuff. Do you guys want to talk about what we're going to do for the first STACK event?
I would love to just mention who's in the room real quickly. AJ Nash, Chris Blackburn, Britany, myself, Jacob Espinoza, and Joe Bonito.
Bonanno.
Bonanno.
You remember it like a banana.
I do, yeah. Bonanno
Yes.
with the O. And it's a group of people who want to make changes in the community, and I think specifically North Downtown, right?
Yes.
We want to find ways to engage the community and do it in a way that's positive, that's bringing people together, that's exciting, right? And just injecting some new energy.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was said at our STACK meeting was that we would all just wrap our arms around this part of Salem and give it a big hug, which, however that comes out, if it's us downtown cleaning the sidewalks on a Saturday morning, if it's you slinging pancakes off your blacktop just to get
Blackstone's
people to...
coming down. I'm gonna bring it.
Blackstone.
Yep.
There you go. Sponsor us. I think
Great
you're
plug.
supposed to say stuff like that in a podcast.
You should, yeah. No, it's only AJ's mom and my mom listening, so that's okay.
Yeah, I saw two.
Yeah, there's two
viewers.
downloads so far. Yeah.
I listened, so now you have 3.
Okay.
Yeah. Best podcast voted by the host and their moms.
That's right. Biggest fans. Yeah, they love us.
That's funny. So I think it's a committee that will do a bunch of different things. But I think if we can take the energy that was in that room or in that Skybridge and just like spew it all over Salem, something great's going to come out of it.
Yeah, I agree. And it was just fun to ideate and listen to. We have some like big challenges to tackle, but I think what our job is, our goal is to take them in little small bites, right? And I think the first thing we're going to do, right, is going to be coming up this next Saturday, the 16th.
Saturday the 16th, yeah.
At 9 a.m. We're going to don our new STACK vests.
Yes.
And we are going to go out and do some cleanup downtown.
And I hope people will come down and do this with us. Even if you're not cleaning, having a nice big group of people walking together and just taking up space in downtown. Because this is our place. This is our city.
It is. And it's I love this area because you have these alleys that are behind the buildings, behind JCPenney, behind the Forge they're unique. The way they look and the way that there's access to businesses and just the cobblestone and...
Ask any photographer in town. Have you taken a picture in these alleys? Of course they have.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Because they're so unique. Yeah.
And we want, I think, we'll be bringing some food and some drinks, so that's going to be fun. So we want to engage with everybody, and if it's just the 6 of us, it's just the 6 of us, and we're just getting started.
That's right.
Oh man, there's so much going on up here.
I can see it.
Oh my
I
God.
can see it. It's almost like, is it rabbit?
It's like
is it like Wile E. Coyote? Like what's is it
Now that I
Tasmanian
understand
devil?
what I'm involved with, I was down with the big vest, right? But this is coming down to one of the reasons you're so valuable to someone trying to navigate land use is efficiency in communication, right? Sure, sometimes you're a bit of a bulldog, but that's a strength and a weakness, right?
Sure.
Right? Yeah, I don't want someone that's not bold, so I'll take that all day long, right? But I would argue that in this world we live in, I'm going to call it TikTok society, right? Bridging cultures. This world we live in, so much comes down to communication. And what's interesting is when I was getting into real estate, I was told there's no such thing as a bad property. There's a bad operator. There's a bad set of rules or circumstances, and you may call it a bad property, but property is just property. There's no such
That
thing as a bad
explains
property.
so much about your optimism.
Oh, and I would argue
Honestly,
So true.
that has like, okay, a lot of things just came together for me.
good. And like with Salem, like we're not a bad city, right? This isn't
No.
a bad circumstance. And what's funny is that we've almost given in this TikTok, Reddit, too much power to the trolls, whoever they are. But those trolls
No, they're invisible.
are a negative energy. And my favorite thing that you said on Stack, and it's actually something we've had to focus on with the restaurant because there's a lot of pressure, right? You reach that spot where most people give up, and you're like, yeah, we were there, but we're not going to give up, right? And then you just keep
That's
pushing.
right.
But one of the best things you can do is just give energy to your team, give energy. So I look at this like building any team. How do you recruit? How do we communicate better? And how do we build an army? How do we build our Timbers army, which is our Salem army, right? And to be a part of that army, you could literally have face paint and just scream, right? You do not have to have a role. You do not have to pick up garbage. You do not, like you could literally just show up and walk.
show up
Just
and walk
show up
with
and walk.
us.
But energy is what the community needs. Energy is what we're trying to focus. And then communication around energy is, and I like what, there's a lot of folks out there. What's Happening Salem is one of those folks, right? The SBJ channel is one of those folks. But there's so many more. In that meeting at Stack, I sent you a local influencer that just said, "Hey, you're at the spot where most people are giving up, right?
Yeah, you're
and
feeling
you're not,
low,
like,
and then you
I felt
saw
love, and I'm
that.
like, oh my God, this is a Salem influencer giving me inspiration, not someone in Austin." And so it's like, how do we encourage each other? How do we become more of on the same team? And how do we care less about being right? Right, this is how I know we can fix this. No, this is how I know we can fix this. And how do we just say, great, let's all just, I won't even want to say fix this. Let's all
That's
just
exactly right.
be
And I don't think
present
Stack is
together.
about fixing anything. It's just about filling people's cups and
Mm-hmm.
creating more hype and more energy around this place that we really care about.
And I loved your analogy in that meeting of the garden bed analogy, right? And too often when someone's walking through and looking at that garden bed, they say, look at that weed. Well, it's just going to come back. Well, look at that weed. Well, it's just going to come back. And your analogy of, well, put a big bushy plant in that has enough cover that there's no room for the weed to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Cut off all the sunlight for the weed. And it, whatever that weed is, we have to put a pin in it, but it's just conversations, right? Just people at a table talking about, like, great, what are the weeds? Let's not say what they are, and how do we put flowers here, right? Is it literal flower pots? Is it just literal cleaning? Is it an area? There's all these things on, like, how do we create? But in the end, it's just, how do you help the people who've risked it all, who has the courage to try to do something new, to spend more time on that courageous effort and less time on pulling weeds out front?
Right.
And how do we not make the city the enemy, or this the enemy, or that the enemy? How do we not have an enemy and just say we're all on the same team and
Yeah.
build bridges?
Stack is Switzerland. We are super neutral. We have no animosity towards any group or any entity. I think getting people together and honestly just walking through the door of businesses in downtown with no intention other than just to say hello. We're glad you're here. Thanks for hanging up your shingle in downtown Salem, because downtown looks so different from the sidewalk than it does from your car. And if we're just going to continue to it reminds me of that movie Cars, where they built the highway, and we're just like missing this like beautiful gem of a downtown because we're driving by. And we continue to put out this narrative that downtown's not safe, downtown's not clean. Stop. Let's clean it up. Let's make it safe. Safety in numbers. Walk with a group. Let's do this,
I would argue, sitting out for my sheep's milk ice cream the other day, we were spilling out of the doors. The night was awesome, right?
Yeah.
I got to look at the people on the sidewalk that were definitely in their early 20s and realize how long ago that was in my life, but I know I used to act
Oh
that
my
way.
gosh.
But no, I
Yeah,
think
but then don't you feel bad for the person who's believing the narrative that they can't come?
Yeah, I mean, kind of, but also, it's not that I feel bad for that person. It's that I feel bad for Salem as a team, right? We as a team of trying to move people forward need to get better at communicating realities. And the realities are not always the harsh moments,
Right.
right? And I take this with, which analogy do we even want to take? Let's take the Forge, for instance, as an analogy. If every single Wednesday and Friday and Monday, how many meetings do we have on the Forge a week now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too many.
But if every one of those meetings we came in and we said, here's the list of 17 things that went wrong this week, right? There was this, and there was this, and there was this, and there was this. You would literally think that the only thing that happens is pain.
Yeah.
And what we've started doing recently is like, hey, look at this celebration list. I remember we went through.
Right. There you go.
And we had 17 signed leases and LOIs that we walked through. 17, and that was not including some of the ones that were already in place. And I was like, do you realize this is 17 courageous new businesses that are moving
I love
forward
that.
in this building of 43, and that we are now on a trajectory to 43 new businesses? And, Nat's got this plan he's not going to let Chris win. So he's going to have at least 44.
I love this,
minimum
like,
44 new businesses.
Healthy competition. I love that.
But, and I think creating the avenue to listen. People have a hard time wanting to do anything with a narrative unless you're listening to them. Creating an avenue for a conversation is where we can all grow. And my challenge to anyone listening, which, Mom, right? Here's a challenge to you now. but my challenge to anyone that maybe is going down this path is help us. How do we centralize and not live in a bunch of silos? How do we truly have that community town hall situation where the trolls don't win? Where you don't, and the problem is the trolls, which is what sold media, right? Death, despair, problems, right? Crime, that's what sells media because fear sells. And it's like, no, how do we as a team find something else that sells besides fear? And what's interesting is you change your buyer pool. So how do we have people that buy fun, have people that buy culture? And my favorite part, and this we went over this, after your Fox 12 bit of this experience in this building we're sitting in, is the mom reaching out to you that had the kids that heard your call that started talking about it as a small group of here's what we want. And they put together that list and emailed it to you. And it's still, I'm like, all you did was a little bit on Fox 12 on, hey, Salem, I'm listening. And it
But that's the seed.
got people encouraged.
That's the seed.
Yeah.
And the tour we had just before this podcast over there that I can't talk about, so exciting. It's someone who was literally moving a concept over to Bend who said, I can't do this in Salem, who grew up here. In the concept, she said, I knew this was not the city or the place, but then I heard about the women signing the leases at the Forge, and then I came down and then I saw Clink and I saw the floor and I saw the women's restroom and I was like,
Have to be part
this
of
is
this.
better than anything I could put it in Bend.
That's right.
Right now, this is inertia.
That's
He's
right.
like, how do I not build it here now? And so, if there's one thing that we could all take from that, it's that you're not just encouraging that small business owner. That you're encouraging a reason to get past the struggle. You're helping them get past the part where most people quit. And those people that are being encouraged, I feel like, and I know Chris will be listening to this one. I feel like my 2-year job was just to encourage Chris from not giving up on this because it was such a lift, and he took such a big risk, and people don't even understand.
The risk, I think, silos you into feeling really lonely. Like you're the only one in it, and you're the only one who could lose everything. Yeah. And so that's another reason why I think surrounding yourself with a really good team and being loyal to that team so long as they're good to you, I think is really important because you create this like synergy and then you're not reinventing the wheel every time. But I love what you're saying, AJ, because, I'm not native to Salem and I was really critical of this place when I first got here. I hated Salem. I didn't think Salem could be anything. I didn't want to live here. I didn't envision my life here. And now my thoughts of Salem are totally turned on their head. And I think that's why I keep saying changing hearts and minds, because mine was changed.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm just like such an advocate. I just love this city.
And what's so great about the TikTok mentality is that literally to change in heart and mind with the younger generation, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, they're
It's like
open.
a good 8 to 10 second clip times like 6, right?
Exactly,
No change.
but you just make people feel good, and they're going to come back and keep doing it.
Well, and I think so at our real estate firm, our motto is we like to have fun. If we're not having fun, why do it?
Right.
Right. And what I love about like Nat's team, and I'll keep telling this story, is, you know, we're at a party that he's throwing that is a 90s party, and we're excited because we're 90s, you know.
AJ may have started a little game of Flip Cup during that party, which we didn't
Oh
expect
my
to see.
gosh.
There was some Nintendo 64.
I'm
James
like ready
Bond
to knock
was
this
all set up.
crane over in my microphone because I don't think I was invited.
I
to
think
this
you were
party.
invited.
I don't think
I'm pretty
so.
sure you were on that invite
We're gonna have
list.
to look
you
for
were
some
you were probably
evidence.
busy. You were probably busy land use planning. It's okay.
But let's get to the point. So like it's Saturday night. We're there to have fun. We have been working so hard. We just needed to let our hair down.
Yeah.
and honestly,
Yeah.
it was one of those nights where we'd had so much going on. It was like, do we do this? Do we do
Yeah.
it? And it was for Isaac's
You guys were,
downtown.
like, ready
it was
to
like, you
just,
know what?
like, crawl in bed with cucumbers on
but
your
it was like,
eyes
you know what?
instead.
We want to do this for a good cause, and you know what? Let's have another party. We love throwing parties.
Yep. And then insert phone call. Got a break in at JCPenney.
Oh shoot!
Insert
That was that night.
broken glass. Insert midnight where you're trying to go north to go home, and you're like, well, just been rerouted.
Yep.
And my favorite part about the whole thing is I got this photo on my phone still. Nat is sitting there, right, with his buddy that he coerced to come down and help. And they're in their, zebra print leopard. I mean, you are 90s.
Mine was Packers. His was Vikings. They were like
That's
my
beautiful.
father-in-law had passed those down to me to use.
Wow,
and-
actual
And yeah, when we're
vintage.
sitting there, and I've got my maintenance manager Kevin on site to help us board up this door. We'd had a few drinks too, so we're just like, and it's like, but what the reason that we went down there, and the reason we wanted to step up in that situation is because we're part of a team, and the Forge is related to JCPenney via the Sky Bridge, and there's valuable things in there, and we're like, if somebody gets in here. Obviously, we care about this building too, but there was such a knock-on effect to that, and it was like I felt so inspired by being a part of the team. Like if I was just me and still just doing my 45th parallel thing, like I wouldn't have been connected with the Forge and this
Right.
building, and like so I think I get inspiration about by working with a good team with you guys and Clutch and our contractors and everybody, tenants, and I think about Salem. I'm not from here either, but I feel like it can level up, and I feel like the people I'm working with have leveled up.
Yeah.
And I feel like, continuing to work with this group is just helping Salem to grow, and that's what gets me up in the morning, and it gets me inspired. And yeah, having our 805
Thank you for
meetings,
the good attitude, though. Like the narrative could have been, "This is lame."
Yeah, get me
Another
out of this.
break-in.
Why did I do this?
Yeah, well, just another break-in. This
Yeah,
is
you can
lame.
spiral so easily.
Totally.
And how many
we
businesses
could walk away if we wanted to, right? We're just like,
You know?
we're not
Right.
going to do this. We're scared of it, right?
Yeah.
And instead, the narrative was, "Hey, you got a problem? I'll solve it." Right? Big smiles. It's 12:30. We're all in pain, but you know what? We're here together.
In
and
pain and
that's-
possibly in pink.
Yeah.
Because the
Yeah,
90s
exactly.
was a great time for
Yeah.
pink. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I loved about that moment is that, after doing that, just feeling everybody's positive energy from the response, like, it's like, all right, I've got a team. I got people who do care about Salem, downtown especially, and, they have my back too. And so it's like, I know next time something happens, like, they're going to help me out too. It's like, it just goes to show, like, there's this really good group of people in this community that want downtown to be better.
Exactly.
And that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So Stack, as I'm hearing it right now, it's called Team Salem.
Mm-hmm.
Team Salem. You're either on or you're off.
Salem's Avengers.
And yeah, we might need capes. Definitely need spandex.
Masks.
Yeah, you used to ride a bike, so he's the only one with the spandex. Right?
I do like
I don't
spandex.
fit to those
Oh,
things.
yeah, I got it.
I didn't like them before, but they are comfy.
Yeah.
So, well, we should probably wrap up.
Okay.
I think, Brittany, I would love, like, this has been awesome. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks
I
for
would
having
love, and I would love, for you to let our listeners know, like, how do they find you? What's the best way to reach out to you? you if they want to ask any land use questions
Yeah.
or, start the ball rolling on some development or any other services you offer.
Yeah. So anybody who needs help with development can find us at brandlanduse.com. And we're on Liberty Street, right down from City Hall. So see the pink sign. It's the Pink Planning Palace, and that's where you'll find me.
Love it.
So
Well, thank you so much for
Thanks
being
for
on.
having me.
It's been a pleasure.
yeah.
All right.